We've already seen 2 trades of Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee sent off to Calgary. I would say that's been a nice, early return win for the Flyers. Kuzmensko is obviously making an impact here on the power play. Nothing really other than the jolt that they had out in Calgary. Both Frost and Farabee have not really done much, if at all, over the last 10 games or so for their respective teams. I thought that was going to be like the big trade. I'm starting to think something might be brewing here, but your initial thoughts on how that trade has gone, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, give or take?
Well, I'll say this. You have to factor in the fact we had the Four Nations tournament, which was outstanding, by the way.
Yeah.
Really some of the best hockey we've seen in a long time, and I love how everybody tuned into it, around America, it seemed. I'll say this. This is actually pretty neat to see. Joel Farabee has 1 point in 10 games with the Calgary Flames. 1 goal. Morgan Frost has 3 points in 10 games. All right. 2 goals and assist. In 5 games, Andrei Kuzmenko has a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. So one player has just a difference. And then I didn't even look before we got in here at Jacob Pelletier. Let me see what he's got. Jacob Pelletier is a Flyer. Oh, I'm sorry. So both players, a combined 20 games for Frost and Farabee puts up 4 points. A combined 9 games for Kuzmenko and Pelletier, because Pelletier has an assist. So a combined 5 points. So I'd say it seems to be working out just fine for the Flyers, because the production there is what they need. Now, I'll say this. The early return on the window for the trade, I've seen a massive difference on the power play, just from the puck movement on its own, just because of what Kuzmenko can do. And you've seen the chemistry between Michkov and Kuzmenko of moving that puck around. You've seen what Kuzmenko can do. I was in the game last week against Pittsburgh, and it was actually Kuzmenko who got beat on that breakaway goal, where I forget the guy's name, beat Sam Merson up high. But it was a bang-bang play. I thought it was offsides at first because it was flipped into the zone. But overall, even defensively, I thought Kuzmenko, and that was the knock on him coming in, he doesn't play great defensively. I don't think he's been that bad. That's really the only time I've noticed him. Once or twice, he's gotten beat on the long passes. But other than that, I haven't seen too many deficiencies in his game from that. And Jacob Pelletier, playing with Ryan Poehling and Garnet Hathaway, really like that a lot. I really like that line. I see a lot of energy out of him. He's an energy player. Seeing him against Pittsburgh in person is what I thought I would see when he came, when they traded for him. So early returns, I'll say this. I like them both. And I would be happy to see Kuzmenko around here for a full season just because of what he can do in the power play. I don't think this would hurt this team at this point to have a roster spot in their top 9. That's just a power play guy. If he got to play third line minutes, you play him in third line minutes, and then he gets power play time. I think that's what this team really needs. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah. I really think, despite what we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks, even after that trade was initially made, where they could have been then using Kuzmenko as another piece to another team down the line as we get closer to the trade deadline, seems like I agree with you. I don't think that, unless something is absolutely outstanding, it's probably not going to happen. I think we're looking at just 2 players that are going to be potentially likely traded, I should say, if at all. And that's obviously Scott Laughton and Rasmus Ristolainen.
Wait. Likely traded or not at all?
You
can't have your cake and eat it too.
No. What I mean, obviously what I mean is the heavily rumored players that are being shipped or being discussed are Laughton and Risto. And I mean, I am a big fan of trolling the internet. I if you can master the troll, you get a thumbs up from me. Scott Laughton. I don't know. I don't know who gave you that idea.
Eric Johnson did. It was Eric Johnson.
Oh, that's even
Eric
better.
Johnson. This Last Supper idea.
The fact that he did the Last Supper in Winnipeg right before you get a nice shootout win, and just the commitment, not just players, but he had trainers in on the bit. It's so funny to me when players look, what I respect about Scott Laughton is that he is not just beloved here, he beloves being here. Like, he loves
Correct.
being here. And I think last season, and I was listening to Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts, and he kind of hinted at this too. He doesn't want to leave, and the organization is kind of trying to accommodate that, similar to a Giroux situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, I don't think the Flyers are in a position where they should be doing that.
They absolutely
Organization,
should. They
but
absolutely should. They have to. They have to. When I'll get to
they
that
don't
in
have
a
to
minute.
do anything.
Finish your thought, but I'll get to why they have to.
My point is, like, I don't. My prediction is, just to jump ahead, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't make any moves on the trade deadline day. I think they're just outside. They're just contending enough to compete for the playoff spot that they stand pat, unless, again, similar to the Kuzmensko, something comes along and absolutely blows them away. Couple first round picks, high top 3 round picks type of thing, a player, that kind of thing. I don't think they make a move. However, I don't think, if they're only talking to teams that Laughton wants to go to, you're already hindering yourself. You kind of could argue that you hindered yourself when you did that with Drew a couple years back, when you went to traded him only to Florida because he wanted to stay on the East Coast. Trying to give Scott Laughton and Giroux the same treatment doesn't really compute with me. I understand you can respect the two players, but, like, it's just not the same level to me. It's like tier. Giroux was AAA tier. Laughton is AA or single A tier. Like, he's a well-respected guy, but he's not worthy of something like this. Again, I don't think it matters, because I don't think they're going to move him. I don't think they're going to move Risto. I think they'll maybe make minuscule minor league deals, try and get a fringe player, or excuse me, a fringe NHL player. I don't think this is the time and place, if you're a team like the Flyers, to be trying to accommodate a guy like Laughton, who wants to stay here, and I think he ultimately will, but to give him to the teams that he wants to go to, or, like,
Why
best
not?
suit him.
I just don't understand why
because
not. Because
that's not sports, Scott.
Yes, it
that's
is.
not how this works.
Absolutely.
You are trying to make your team better.
Yeah.
If you are only moving Laughton to these 5 teams, just for the sake of argument, 5 teams that he wants to go to, and they are not giving you the best possible outlook, like, say it's an Anaheim that you've made deals with before, obviously Drysdale, and they're like, okay, we'll give you a 3rd round pick, and then someone like Detroit that he doesn't want to go to, despite them being a playoff team, they're like, okay, we'll give you a 1st or a 2nd, and he's like, no, I don't want to go to Detroit. Well, damn bad, brother. You're going to Detroit. Like, that's our better pick. Like, that's how this works in sports.
No,
you can't.
No, it doesn't.
That's
That's not how it works in sports. Not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. No,
the NHL is still not a players' league. It's not like the NBA.
It doesn't matter. You're trying to right now. You're trying to rebuild your image to make sure that this is a place where players want to be. If you're taking time to accommodate a player who's been around and well respected in the locker room like that, and who has term on his contract, and saying, "Hey, we don't want to get rid of you," a team is offering it up, though. We can't say no to that, given to where you are on the roster. If we can't say no to that, we'll be more flexible in where you want to go and where that, because we don't have to get rid of you. They don't have to get rid of Scott Laughton. They don't have to get rid of Rasmus Ristolainen. They both have term on their deals. They're both effective players on this hockey team. They don't have to trade them. But if they do, they can be more flexible with it, and they can turn around and say, wow, it was really neat what they did for Scott Laughton, because you don't want to end up in a situation again, and thank God the trade didn't work out, with Torrey Krug 2 years ago. You remember that? Torrey Krug did not want to come to Philadelphia. Let's not forget that, okay? He did not want to come to Philadelphia. Cutter Gauthier did not want to play for Philadelphia, all right? You're forgetting those facts. So, yes, this is sports now. That players do have some leverage here. Torrey Krug had a no-movement clause. That deal was in place. He would not waive it. So he'd say, you know what? The team wanted to move me. I want to stay here. I'm going to stay here. All right, well, we're going to accommodate it. All right, we don't really have a choice. It's not any bad feelings. That's his right. Cutter Gauthier. Hey, you know what? I don't want to play for the Flyers. All right, we're going to trade you. You don't have a say in where you go, though. The whole point is that players do have some leverage there. But when you're an effective guy in the locker room and a leader like Scott Laughton, you just don't say, you know what, we're going to throw you wherever, because guess what? You might need Scott Laughton 2 years from now if you're closer where this team is. You need a guy to get you that bottom 6 guy to get you over that hump, to be a contender because those guys are valuable. You might need a guy like Rasmus Ristolainen to say, you know what? We know you're on a long-term deal here. You've been here a lot of years. You know you want to go to contender. Your contract is up. We're going to re-sign you for another 3 years because we need you here because we're starting in the playoffs and you're really effective in the playoffs. And you need that. And you really need that. You need those. You need to have that thing where players want to come here and be here. And that has not happened to this team for a very long time.
Great. Let's play that game then. Let's go with this. What about the coach? The coach is the least favored coach by players in the NHL under John Tortorella. They don't want to play for him. You could argue that that's why you don't have a guy like Cutter Gauthier on this team.
So you're not going to talk to management because you're afraid to play for John Tortorella and you're afraid to be coached hard.
I'm not. I even though I have my dislike for John Tortorella, I agree. Like, it is soft to say that you don't want to play for a certain coach.
There you go. You're soft. You're soft.
But if you are trying to reshape your image as an organization that you are arguing by not trading Scott Laughton for the imaging of how you treat your players, then get rid of the coach because he's not liked by the players.
You're looking at this wrong. The Flyers are a brand. They're a team that is well respected. Mr. Snyder respected.
Don't disagree.
You're trying to bring back that Flyers culture. So that's the point. You want them to be here as part of the culture. Remember, we've talked to Dominic Roussel. We've talked to Tommy Soderstrom. We've talked to John Van Biesbroek. They all loved here in Philadelphia. Did not want to leave. And they loved it here. The point is because of that culture. That's what it was. That has been gone. That was gone with the Chuck right before Mr. Snyder died, with the Valerie Camillo era, the Chuck Fletcher era, the Dave Scott era, all that era was just, hey, we'll get by and do whatever because they didn't get it.
They took a blowtorch to the organization. I agree.
Right, and now it's being rebuilt by Keith Jones, Danny Briere, and Dan Hilferty. It's being rebuilt. You're rebuilding it. So in one way you do that is to take care of the guys who've been around here and have been loyal in that situation.
Is a coach not part of that culture?
Coach is part of that culture, but reestablishing the type of play that's expected here in Philadelphia. Tough play, hard play that, you know what, you're going to bust your ass, you're going to work hard, win or lose, no matter if we have the talent or not. That's what it is. If players don't want to be coached like that, then they don't need to be here in the first place. You want to play like that? You want to play soft? You want to put up 100 points in the regular season and go to all first place and then be out in the first round? Go to Toronto because that's what they do every fucking year.
I'm going to ring a bell every time we get that one final dig at Toronto, or that one dig per episode from Scott about Toronto. It's so good. It's a very good talent you have. I will give you that. Listen,
everybody knows how I hate Toronto.
All I'm saying is if you're going to tell me that the reason you shouldn't trade Scott Laughton isn't because of a hockey move, it's because you're trying to rebuild the culture as being a player-friendly or whatever the verbiage that you want to use to make other free agent players in the future want to come here.
Yes.
And one of the biggest problems, theoretically, I'll say, for this organization right now is the players in and outside this organization seemingly don't like playing for the current head coach.
Go poll any of them right now.
They just did it. They just
outside the organization.
That's fine.
Go ask any one of those players if they like playing for John Tortorella, and everyone is going to say yes.
I don't. Saying it's 100% return, I'm going to say no. There's no way it's 100% return.
1,000% there is, because they've all gotten better. Rasmus Ristolainen's gotten better. He's been on the power. He's quarterback in the power play. Travis Sanheim's gotten so much better. Cam York's been
Drysdale.
Jamie Drysdale's been so much better.
Jamie Drysdale did something. I don't remember what game it was this week. It was one of the Pittsburgh games, I think.
Oh my God! I know what you're talking about. I saw it. I saw the play.
He blocked the shot after whiffing on a shot that the shot went up and wide. It caused it a break for Pittsburgh.
I watched that
Drysdale
whole play.
Came back and blocked the shot, caused a transition play, and a goal was scored by the Flyers.
I watched that whole play from the opposite end. It was because he came down. I remember watching that play. I was like, holy shit. I'm like, and he was wide open in the slot. I'm like, what a play that was. I was like, oh my God, what a play. what a play. Did you see that? I was talking to my buddy, and then I was talking to my buddy Jeff, and they swing back around. He makes the play. They break up ice. Bang, bang, bang. Another tic-tac-toe play, and it's in the net. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did you not see that play? Like, these line combinations are working. All right?
Yeah.
So,
I think it was a typical, if I'm not mistaken.
I
want to say it was.
It was Tippett or Forrester, one of the two.
Yeah.
Because it might have been because Cates had two. Cates had two. I think Brink had one. Anyway, regardless. But anyway, I know what you're talking about because it was a great play. And he had a goal the other night against Winnipeg. He had the tying goal against Winnipeg. So his game is getting better now. So don't tell me, and don't tell me about this thing about the damn coach about this, because it's not the coach. The people, the players who don't know and aren't here don't know, because I can tell you there are 20 guys in that locker room who will go to war for Torts and understand why they do it. And the ones that won't, guess what? They're playing Calgary right now. Sorry, but it's true. They're playing in Calgary right now.
I'll give you that. I will give you that. That is why those two players are out in Calgary now. My only point is, if the outside looking in, they don't want to give him a chance, is a problem. Now, once you're in the building, whether by force or by choice, you learn to enjoy, love, whatever show of affection that you have for Torts. But to get guys in the building, that might be a tough sell for some players. And I'm not saying it will, but it could be similar to your argument of Laughton shouldn't be moved because of the semantics or the imaging of yourself as an organization. That is all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it is happening. But if a poll from the outside looking in tells me that the coach is a problem that they don't want to play for, how is that not impacting your culture imaging wise? Like, I don't know how, I don't know, know.
Let me put it this way. You have concerns. You go to any team, you're going to have concerns. Absolutely. All right. Agents are going to have concerns. They're going to say their piece. I've worked with Torts in the past. All right. But you know what? Hey, why don't you talk to Scott Laughton and talk about his experience? Hey, yeah, Torts can be hard, but I'll tell you what, he's going to get everything out of you. All right. He can be a pain in the ass sometimes. He's probably going to bench you once or twice during the year when you're not playing well. He'll deserve it, and he's going to get you going. But here's the thing. You know what? The organization is going to take care of you, because you know what? You know, they could have gotten a first-round draft pick for me, but I didn't want to go there because of my family, and they looked after that first before they do that for me. So they care about you, and they care about your family, not just about assets on the ice. They care about you as a person and your family. The culture here is the most important thing. So you know what? Yeah, if you should come here, because at the end of the day, they're not going to get you. They're not going to flip you. If you do good things here, they're going to have an impact. You're going to be an impactful player. You're going to have some up and downs and Torts, but you're going to become here and be a better hockey player, and you're going to be here for your contract because they take care of you as a family thing, especially if you immerse yourself in the locker room. That's exactly what Scott Laughton's going to be saying to other players. Yeah. And that's exactly the selling point on it. That's exactly the point to get him here, because that's the kind of leadership that you need, because you have two guys up there who get it now. They're not just executives. They're two guys who played the game, two guys that know the dynamics in the locker room, two guys who know exactly what it takes to be in the NHL and what effects it has on the players when they make the trades and when trade deadlines come up and, you know, everybody's nervous and all that stuff. But giving them the option of saying, hey, look, you know, you have an option to go here. You know, we're getting a second. We really want a first year. We don't want to trade you. But if a first comes up, it may happen. You know, if they're giving us a second, we're not going to take that. We really want a first to move you. That's what it's going to take. But if they get it and say they're offering a first, Winnipeg's offering a first, you know what, we're going to flip you there. We are. That's value for us. You know, we understand that. But that's to say it at the end of the day, it's like it took a first-round pick to get Scott Laughton out of there, and that's how valuable he is to that room. Let's just take that for a second. They won't take anything less than a first-round pick for Scott Laughton. Scott Laughton.
I mean, you could even
no disrespect to Laughton, but look at his on nice production.
I agree. That's like Rasmus Ristolainen is not worthy of a first-round pick, but that's also what they want for this guy.
Yeah, because his value of what he brings to this team.
Yeah,
I mean, and you have to think of it from perspective of this is what people don't understand, is that you're thinking of it from assets of, oh, just go get a draft pick and then bring one of the young guys up. It ain't that easy, because who you're bringing up to play those minutes? Because guess what? Because Rasmus Ristolainen's been playing so well, you haven't noticed him out there. Now you put Emil Andre out there, you get more minutes to Igor Zamula, you give it to somebody else. Guess what? You're going to start noticing them because they're not physical, they're not playing at that level. Helgi Grands, whatever. You're not playing that. He's not going to play at the same level as Rasmus Ristolainen. So you're going to notice him a lot more. He's going to make a lot more mistakes and be like, oh man, why did they ever get rid of Ristolainen? Like, he was doing so good. Why did they get rid of him? He actually was improving. Yeah, you just don't trade guys for assets, because that first round pick could end up to be a Joel Farabee or Morgan Frost, where you're depending on a lot of them, bro, the big part of the future, and you have to wind up trading them anyway because they didn't pan out in this team. I mean, those were Hextall picks. Let's be real here. Just because you get a draft pick doesn't mean anything. They traded Braden Shen essentially for Morgan Frost. I'd rather have Braden Shen now than Morgan Frost the past few years.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So you traded Braden Shen before he really hit his stride in his prime for Morgan Frost because you thought that you could get more out of it and get longevity. So it doesn't always work. You can't have your cake, you need it too. Sometimes you got to take the deals you have.
It's similar to like trading the known for the unknown. Draft picks are always unknown no matter what they are. First round picks, top overall picks, like those are unknowns until they pan out in the NHL, or the NFL, NBA, whatever it is. Like that's just how this goes. But I truly believe, and I was listening, like I said at the beginning, to 32 Thoughts with Elliot Friedman. I don't think this team is going to make a move. Do you? Before we get into what Elliot was...
I think they'll make a move. I think they'll make a move that we're not talking about. I think they'll make a surprise move.
Okay.
I think that there's more brewing out there because, listen, the Flyers have been very tight-lipped, especially with the Cutter Gauthier situation. There hasn't been a whole lot. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear squat about Farabee and Morgan Frost until the night of
we didn't
the
hear
deal.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything about Cutter Gauthier. Dropped on us on a random day in, what was it, December, November of
something like that.
Years ago? Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is that they're really good about keeping things close to the chest and tight-lipped, and other sources out there are not getting the inside information from that, which is good because you're not trying to pump up the value. And I think that what's really good is that that's a lot of Keith Jones and Danny Briere really saying, okay, who's out there? Who are they talking about? Who can be available? Gathering intel from other GMs and what they're looking at and what the asking prices are and stuff like that. I think there's a move out there that we haven't even just thought about yet. I think there's a surprise move out there.
So before you get to that, what that makes it interesting is that Elliot Friedman, despite what you saying, Elliot Friedman's the gold standard of inside stories for the NHL.
Him and Darren Dreger,
yeah, they're amazing. He was saying on 32 Thoughts this week, I think it was actually today's episode.
Pierre Laporte is really good, and Bob McKenzie when he was around.
There's some really A+.
Those Canadian guys are the best with it.
Yeah. Frank Saravalli.
I was gonna say Frank Saravalli is great too.
The funniest thing about Frank Saravalli is he's like 3 years older than us. He's our age, but
Frank's younger than me. Frank's 2 years younger than me. What he used to do is, from what I've heard, now I can't confirm this. I can't confirm this.
Oh, no, we can't get in trouble here. Okay.
I can't confirm this. Let me just say, this is purely just something that I've heard, purely speculative, is that when he first got out of college and was working on the beat in the Flyers, in the late 2009, 2010, he would dye his hair gray to look more like a veteran. That's what I heard.
I mean, it's smart.
It's great.
It's a very
genius
good idea
thing. Because they used to call with Tim Panacci, they used to call him the kid. Frankie the Kid Saravalli. And I'm thinking, this kid's like my age, but he's gray as silver, as silver as anything. I was always surprised by that. And then you realize, that's because he's younger than me. That's why.
Yeah. But either way, so what they're talking about, what Ellie Friedman was saying was, yes, they are rebuilding, but they're looking to take a swing. I'm curious of what that means, because when I read something like that right before the trade deadline for a team like the Flyers that's in that position, that's not for this week. That is for draft day. They're going to use some of these picks that they have accrued over the last couple of trades to make a swing in the offseason. I'd be shocked if they make a significant swing for a significant impact player this week. I'd be shocked. Would I like I just I can't see them doing it this moment. It's an off-season moment. I don't know what you're thinking. I'll let you get to your, but unless that means offloading a bloated, and I word use bloated loosely, because it's all about perception. The Coots contract might get bloated, like might age like sour milk if this thing goes wrong. It already is looking bad. If they try and get rid of that, what does that look like? Because I don't think that means significant impact in terms of today. It just means cap space for tomorrow, which is a good thing. Do they trade Risto and Laughton for first round picks or an established player? I don't think that's in the cards. First round pick, I think they're just playing hardball and good for them. I don't see a big move happening this week. What are you? So what is your thing that we're not talking about? What move?
Well, I was just saying, I can't say for sure what it is. Again, I just think that there might be something there because the Flyers do have a lot of assets. You're going to have teams out there, don't forget, that are going to want to trade for something at the draft. They're going to want something. Like they might say, hey, look, like, if I look at the standings here, I'm looking at teams that are on the cusp that'll be like, okay, they might have some trouble. Thinking of let's see, look at Vancouver. Like Vancouver, they're right on the edge of it, right there battling with Calgary. The Blues are right there. You might have something that can be done there because they're close and they're trying to get in. They feel that they can get in and they can make a push. I think Vancouver is kind of like where the Flyers were like 3 or 4 years ago. I feel like that they kind of might have peaked a little bit early. That JT Miller move really raised some questions for me. They have a little bit of goaltending issues because of Thatcher Demko being hurt, got hurt again. They're running Kenneth Lankinen. I forget the Silvos. I forget his first name. But we're running him, the guy they ran in the playoffs last year. So I think that they could be potentially, there's something there where they could be brewing. We're like, okay, we need something here. But there's teams that also be like, okay, well, we could use some assets and we have some things we can give away. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I look at teams like, okay, who could use something that could, be of value if they're really pushing for the playoffs to give you. I'm thinking like of a deal, like if you go back to 2006, and it's a long time ago, people are probably going to say, how the hell do you remember this? That's how the Flyers acquired Braden Coburn. Braden Coburn was a defenseman where they were really close, but Atlanta was really close to getting in the playoffs, and they needed a defenseman. I forget the player they traded for him. It might have been Alexei Zhitnik, but they traded a defenseman to the Thrashers for a Braden Coburn and got a young defenseman out of it. And I'm thinking that could be something that a desperate team might be wanting to be like, hey, look, we need some here. We'll give you a really good young player. I'd have to, honestly, I know it sounds awful saying this on a podcast and just being transparent. I have to do a little more research of who that could be because there's so much. But I think that there's some teams like that could really use an asset like that. I think Buffalo's a team that could be winding up giving some stuff away. Buffalo's got some Buffalo. They just can't seem to get out of their own way for whatever reason. They stink. They just been stinking for years. But you look at that roster, you look at that some of that talent, and you're like, man, like they have young talent on this roster. I just look at this and say, okay, well, if I'm looking at the positions, you have Dylan Cousins. He's 24 years old. Peyton Krebs, he's 24. You have Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson's a big guy. He's 27, a little bit older, a little bit more physical. But Dylan Cousins, Tage Thompson, can those guys be available? If you swing a first-round pick, a higher 1 or 2 first-round picks to Buffalo, they're not going to be ready for a couple times, and you might have something that might be there. So I'm looking at deals like that. Like, the Flyers get up something like a Dylan Cousins. I'd be very, very happy with that. I think he might be someone who might need a new like a fresh start. And then there's Tage Thompson, who's got 51 points, 52 games. I mean, he's point per game player. He could be a big first line center that they're looking for. So I don't know. I think you might be able to get something out of that if you try to. I just don't think
Here-
that they're. I think that there's something more there that they could do.